The stars above Earth shone brightly through the tall glass windows of Vorntech Tower. It was one of the most powerful tech companies in the galaxy, and Blaise Vorn was its young and serious CEO. Only 32 years old, he had already built an empire with his intelligence and discipline. Blaise didn't believe in love. To him, emotions were distractions. He trusted numbers, machines, and business. He lived alone in a smart tower filled with robots, screens, and silence. He had no family and no friends, only contracts and work. But now, his next big deal was endangered. At the Draven Consortium, a powerful group of investors from Saturn's moons, was ready to merge with Vorntech. The deal would open a new trade route and bring in billions of credits, but there was a condition. The Dravens were old-fashioned. They didn't trust men who were unmarried. "You're too young," said Counselor Turek Draven during the call. "And your image shows you don't value family. We only work with stable men, settled men. If you want the merger, you must be married before the next quarter." Blaise tried to argue, but it was useless. The contract required a wedding. Fast. After the call, Blaise walked to the glass window and looked at the floating cars and drones moving below. His AI assistant, Kara, appeared on the nearby screen. "Should I begin a search for a qualified spouse?" she asked in her soft robotic voice. Blaise nodded. "I need someone smart, quiet, and easy to manage. Someone who won't make trouble." "Searching," Kara replied. A few moments later, she showed a profile. It belonged to Lyra Mays. She was 24 years old. A Luna 9 orphan, no family, no scandals. She worked as a low-level repair technician in one of Blaise's factories. She had a clean record, high intelligence scores, and most importantly, she needed money. "This one looks simple," Blaise said. "Bring her in." Lyra sat quietly in the white room, her hands folded in her lap. She wore a plain gray suit. Her brown hair was tied back, and her eyes studied the strange machines around her. She had never been in the upper levels of the tower before. When Blaise entered, she stood up quickly. "Miss Mays," he said, sitting across from her. "I'll get straight to the point. I need a wife. Not a real one, just for a contract. You will live with me, act the part, and in return, I'll pay you enough to build your medical center on Luna 9. Lyra blinked in surprise. "Why me? You're quiet, clean record, and you need the money." Lyra looked down. Her heart beat fast. This was strange, risky, and even scary, but she remembered the sick children back home. The doctors had left the station long ago. She had dreams of building a free clinic, but no way to fund it. She looked up. "All right, I agree, but I want to sign my own terms." Blaise raised an eyebrow. "You have conditions?" "I will not sleep with you. I will not do anything romantic. This is just a business deal." Blaise gave a small smile. "Agreed. I don't want a real wife anyway." Within 2 days, the galaxy's media exploded with news. Billionaire Blaise Vorn announces sudden engagement. Who was Lyra Mays, the mystery woman of Vorntech? Cameras followed their every move. The public loved the story of a poor girl and a rich CEO. The fake couple had to act like they were in love, holding hands, smiling, and taking part in interviews. Blaise hated it, but Lyra handled it with grace. "You're better at this than I expected," Blaise said one evening as they prepared for a live news show. "I used to act in school plays." Lyra replied simply. Blaise studied her. She was not like the women he had dated before. She didn't wear flashy clothes. She didn't talk too much. She didn't chase his money. In fact, she avoided asking for anything. She spent her time reading, repairing small devices, or cooking. In the eye-free kitchen, one night, Blaise walked past her room and heard soft humming. Lyra was fixing an old toy robot. When she noticed him, she smiled and explained, "It's for one of the orphans. I promised him it would dance again." Blaise said nothing, but something inside him shifted. Days passed. And the wedding day came fast. The ceremony was planned on the Venus skydeck, one of the most luxurious venues in the solar system. Important leaders, reporters, and cameras all gathered to see the union of the century. Lyra wore a white starlight gown. Her hair sparkled with crystal pins. Blaze, in his black suit, looked sharp but distant. When he saw her walking toward him, something strange happened in his chest. A feeling he didn't recognize. During the vows, Lyra spoke clearly. "I promise to play my role well for the time we agreed upon." The guests clapped. No one knew. It was all fake. After the celebration, Blaze and Lyra returned to his private orbital suite. According to the media, it was their wedding night. Kara had set up romantic lighting, music, and flower petals. They both stood in silence. Lyra walked toward the balcony, looking at Earth spinning below. "This is beautiful," she said softly. Blaze walked beside her. "The view? No," she whispered. "This moment, it's quiet. It feels honest." Blaze looked at her. There was something about her voice that made the world feel slower, softer. They didn't touch. They didn't kiss, but in that moment, something very real had begun. Not love. Not yet, but maybe the first spark of something deeper than a deal. The wedding was over, but the real act had only just begun. Lyra Mays now lived inside Blaze Vorn's personal orbital suite, floating high above the Earth's surface. The suite was built with the latest tech, self-cleaning walls, robotic furniture, and voice-activated everything. Every window showed a different planet, depending on the direction of orbit. But Lyra didn't care about those things. She only cared about keeping her promise. She was here for the contract. For the children waiting on Luna-9. She had entered a fake marriage, and she had to play her part well. Blaze, on the other hand, had never shared his space with anyone before. His world had always been quiet, perfect, and under his control. Now there was someone else walking through his halls, using his kitchen and humming softly while repairing tiny machines. It felt strange, and strangely not bad. The first morning after the wedding, Blaze entered the dining room and stopped. Lyra was already there, dressed in a simple white blouse and gray trousers. She was cooking breakfast by hand, ignoring the robot chef behind her. "You're using the stove?" Blaze asked, surprised. "I don't like the robot's taste," she said with a small smile. "I prefer food made by people." He sat down. The room smelled of fresh eggs and herbs. It was the first time in years that Blaze had tasted real food. It wasn't perfect, but it felt warm. "You're full of surprises," he said. Lyra poured him juice. "I just like doing small things right." Later that week, they had to attend their first joint event, a business gala on Mars. Cameras would be watching. Investors would be listening. Lyra wore a long silver gown, her hair pinned with moonstone clips. Blaze offered his arm as they stepped onto the red carpet, and the lights from hundreds of drones flashed around them. "Smile like you mean it," Blaze whispered through his teeth. Lyra leaned in close and whispered back, "You could try too." To the public, they looked like a perfect couple. Lyra's calm presence balanced Blaze's cold sharpness. Her soft laughs in interviews made him seem more human. She was doing her job perfectly. After the event, Blaze looked at her while the shuttle flew them back to the orbital suite. "You were amazing tonight," he admitted. "I practiced," she replied, looking out the window. "When I was young, I used to pretend I was from one of the Earth families, royal important. It was just a game." "It looked real," Blaze said quietly. Lyra smiled. "Then I guess I'm doing my part." Days turned into weeks. Their routine became oddly comfortable. They would eat breakfast together. Lyra would fix small tech gadgets in her room or help the cleaning bots when they broke down. Blaze would work in his digital office, holding meetings and watching the market. In the evenings, they would sometimes watch old Earth movies. They still slept in separate rooms. That part of the deal hadn't changed. Blaze began to notice small things about her. She didn't complain when something was hard. She talked to the AI with kindness. She took care of the small plants growing on the balcony. He had never seen anyone treat robots and flowers with the same gentle care. He had dated many women before. Rich, powerful, charming, but none of them had made him feel like this. Like there was something missing when they were gone. Like silence wasn't peaceful anymore, but lonely. One night, Blaze found her sitting on the floor of the lounge with a broken data pad. "What happened?" he asked. "I was trying to repair this for a girl on Luna 9. Her school pad stopped working. I promised I'd send her a working one." Blaze watched her solder the tiny wires with patience. He sat down beside her. "You care a lot about those kids." "They don't have anyone," she said softly. "Like I didn't have anyone." Blaze looked at her hands, steady and careful. "You do now," he said without thinking. Lyra looked up, surprised. Their eyes met. The moment held, quiet and deep. But then Lyra pulled her eyes away and stood up. "Thank you," she said quickly, and left the room. One morning, Blaze received a private message from his legal team. "The Draven Consortium is pleased. The marriage has improved your public image by 78%. The merger is back on schedule." He read the message twice. The goal had been achieved. The deal was almost done. But he didn't feel happy. That evening, he told Lyra the news. "The deal will go through. You've played your role perfectly." Lyra nodded. "I'm glad. That's what we wanted." "We?" Blaze asked. She hesitated. "I mean, your company." He felt a sudden chill. "So you don't care if this ends soon?" Lyra paused. "This was always temporary. You said that yourself." Blaze didn't reply. For the first time, he didn't want it to end. A few days later, Lyra received a package. Inside was a small medical drone, upgraded with Vorntech tech. A note read, "For your Luna 9 clinic," from Blaze. Her hands shook as she held the note. It was the first time he had done something personal, something that wasn't part of the contract. She walked into his office later, holding the drone. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You deserve more," he replied. Their eyes locked again. The silence between them wasn't cold anymore. It was full of something new. Something unspoken. Blaze stood up slowly and took a step closer, but Lyra placed a hand between them. "This is still a deal," she said gently. "Let's not confuse." Blaze nodded. "Not yet, but I hope one day it's not just a deal." Lyra didn't answer, but she didn't walk away either. 2 months had passed since the wedding. To the public, Blaze Vorn and Lyra Mays looked like the perfect couple, smiling on news channels, attending charity events, and appearing at interplanetary business meetings. Their fake marriage had changed the media's view of Blaze completely. Investors trusted him more. Public support grew. The Draven Consortium merger was just days away from final approval. But something else was happening behind the scenes. Something neither of them had expected. Feelings, real ones. Lyra had become more than a fake fiancée. She had become a part of Blaze's world, and more importantly, his heart. She didn't just pretend to care. She actually listened to him, understood him, and made him feel seen in a way no one ever had. And Blaze, once cold and distant, had started to change. Looked forward to their conversations. He noticed her smile, her laughter, the way she got lost in her small repair projects. Sometimes he would just watch her from the hallway, wondering how someone so gentle had survived so much. One quiet evening, Kara, Blaze's AI assistant, made an announcement. "Tonight marks 2 Earth months since your union. Would you like to activate honeymoon protocols?" Blaze paused. "What does that mean?" "The romantic suite on Deck 3 has been prepared as a gift from the Draven Consortium. It includes a starlight dinner, music, and privacy." Lyra entered the room just as Kara finished speaking. Blaze looked at her, then back at the screen. Cancel it. But Lyra raised a hand. Wait, maybe we should go. Blaze blinked. Are you sure? Lyra nodded. It's part of the contract. Right? Blaze hesitated, then said softly, only if you're comfortable. I trust you, she said. Deck 3 was quiet, lit by soft blue lights. The dinner table was placed under a transparent dome, giving them a full view of the stars above and Earth spinning below. Soft instrumental music played in the background. Lyra wore a soft lavender dress. Her hair was braided, and her eyes sparkled with something between peace and curiosity. Blaze had never seen her look more beautiful. They sat down, eating slowly and speaking gently about Luna-9, childhood memories, and even silly dreams. I used to imagine I'd fly a ship of my own one day, Lyra said. Go to different planets. Help the sick. Teach kids. Make something of myself. You're already doing that, Blaze replied. She looked at him. Am I? Or am I just pretending to be someone I'm not? Blaze reached across the table. You're more real than anyone I've ever met. Their fingers touched, neither pulled away. Later that night, they returned to the Sweet Dot. It was designed like a luxury sky cabin. Soft lighting, curved glass walls, floating rose petals, and gentle music. A bed rested at the center, surrounded by flowing curtains. The air smelled like moon lily. They stood in silence for a long moment. Blaze spoke first. Lyra, we don't have to stay here. I can ask Kara to. She shook her head. I'm not afraid. She looked down. I've never done this before. Anything like this. Blaze's eyes softened. You mean? I'm a virgin, Blaze. The words fell gently but firmly. He was quiet for a moment, trying to find the right response. You didn't have to tell me. I wanted to. You deserve to know. He stepped closer. Lyra, I don't care about that. I never planned for this marriage to become something real. But it's starting to feel that way. And I want it to grow the right way. Not rushed, not forced. She looked up into his eyes. So what now? He gently took her hand. We sit, we talk. And we stay here not as husband and wife in contract, but as two people learning to trust each other. They sat by the large window, watching stars glide across the sky. Blaze told her stories from his childhood about how he had lost his parents in a mining accident on Titan, and how he had promised himself to never depend on anyone again. I built my life on logic, he said. No emotions. No weakness. But with you, I feel different. Lyra listened quietly, her head resting against the glass. I never thought I'd mean something to someone like you. She whispered. You do, Blaze said. More than anyone. That night, they didn't kiss. They didn't touch more than hands. But it was the closest they had ever been. Two people, broken in different ways, sharing a space that felt safe. When Blaze woke the next morning, Lyra was sitting by the window again, holding a cup of tea. Good morning, she said with a warm smile. Morning, he replied, walking toward her. How do you feel? She asked. He looked at her, then out the window, like something real is finally beginning. Later that day, Blaze canceled the honeymoon suite reservation. He told Kara not to schedule any more fake romantic events. No more acting, he said. If we do something again, it should be because we both want it. Lyra heard him from the other room and smiled. The deal had started with lies and cold plans, but now something real was slowly taking root. A relationship built not on business, but trust. The wedding had been for the cameras, but what was growing between them was meant for something far more lasting. Blaze Vorn sat quietly in his private office, the large curved screen before him displaying contract data and market reports. But his mind was not focused on business. It kept drifting back to one person. Lyra. She was in the workshop 2 floors below, repairing an old medical scanner she planned to send to Luna-9. Even though she hadn't said much after their night in the honeymoon suite, Something had changed between them. The silence was no longer awkward. It was warm, safe, real. Blaze wasn't sure when it had happened, but he was no longer pretending. This wasn't about a deal anymore, but who really was Lyra Mays? He realized he knew very little about her life before she started working at one of his factories. Her records said she came from a forgotten colony on the moon, but the details were vague. No family, no school records before age 12. And her identity file was missing many standard data points. He felt a sudden need to understand her, not as a CEO, but as someone who cared. "Kara," he said to the AI assistant, "run a deep trace on Lyra Mays. Go back before Luna 9. Accessing." Kara replied, "Security override required. These records are classified." "Override it," Blaze ordered. "Code, Vorn Alpha 2. The screen flickered. After a few seconds, hidden data appeared. What Blaze read made his breath stop. Lyra wasn't just a factory worker. She was the last known survivor of the Kepler-17 colony, a secret scientific outpost destroyed 10 years ago during an unknown alien attack. The incident had been covered up by the Galactic Peace Authority to prevent panic. The records were sealed, and all survivors were listed as deceased. Except one, Lyra Mays. She had been just a teenager. After the attack, she was moved to Luna 9 under a false identity and placed in a quiet, low-level education center. She never spoke about her past. Never used her true name again. "Why didn't she tell me?" Blaze whispered. "Because it could get her killed," Kara replied. "The data hidden in her body is valuable." "What data?" Before the attack, Lyra's body was encoded with bio-intel research files from Kepler-17. Genetic science, alien tech analysis, medical advancements. She's carrying information worth more than 10 billion credits. Blaze stood up, heart racing. Suddenly, this fake marriage had become far more dangerous than he ever imagined. Meanwhile, Lyra was in the workshop, humming softly as she repaired the scanner. She didn't know that her past had been unlocked. She didn't know that Blaze had learned everything. She only knew that, for the first time in her life, she was starting to feel safe. She had learned how to survive by hiding, keeping her head down, being quiet. But here, in the strange and shiny world, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she could live a little louder. She turned as Blaze entered the room. He didn't speak right away. His eyes searched her face, not with cold curiosity, but with something deeper. "Lyra," he said gently, "why didn't you tell me about Kepler-17? Her hands froze. She slowly placed the scanner on the table and looked at him. "I thought it didn't matter anymore," she replied, voice low. "And I didn't want you to see me differently." "You were part of something important," he said. "That attack, why were you the only one saved?" "I don't know," she said quietly. "They told me I was lucky. They erased my name, changed my records, and moved me to Luna 9. They said it was to protect me. I believed them." Blaze stepped closer. "Do you know what you're carrying?" "Inside you?" She nodded. "Some data. I don't know exactly what. My parents were scientists. They gave me an injection before the colony fell. You never checked what it was?" "I was afraid," she whispered. "Afraid someone would want it. Afraid I'd be hunted again." Blaze felt his jaw tighten. "You should have told me. I could have helped." "I didn't want your help," she said. "I just wanted to stay invisible until I met you." Her eyes filled with quiet emotion. "And now I don't want to hide anymore." That night, Blaze sat in his security room, watching the monitors. He ordered Kara to update all security protocols around Lyra's room and the suite. She was no longer just his fake wife. She was someone worth protecting with his life. Suddenly, a red alert flashed across the screen. "Incoming breach attempt Deck 9. Unauthorized drone detected. Activate defense grid." Blaze shouted. "Drones." with cameras and weapons began circling the outer edges of the orbital suite. The enemy drone was quickly disabled and captured. Upon scanning, they discovered something chilling. It belonged to a rival company, Nexer Corp., known for stealing advanced tech and selling it in the black market. "They're after her," Blaze said grimly. "They know." The next morning, Blaze told Lyra everything. "I don't want to scare you," he said, "but you're no longer safe. Someone tried to break in last night. They're tracking you." Lyra didn't panic. Instead, she walked to the window, her arms folded. "I was afraid this would happen. That's why I stayed quiet." "We can't stay quiet anymore," Blaze said. "We need to bring your data to the Peace Authority. If it's valuable, they'll protect you." Lyra turned to face him. "What if they try to use me like the others did? What if I become just another tool?" "You won't," Blaze said firmly. "Not while I'm alive." She looked at him, her eyes soft. "You really mean that?" "I do. This marriage, it was fake, but what I feel now is not." She took a step closer. "Then what do? "We prepare," he said. "I'll use every resource I have to protect you. And if we have to fight, we'll fight together." For the first time, Lyra smiled through the fear. She wasn't alone anymore. Blaze stood in the middle of his command room, hands behind his back, eyes locked on the holographic screen. The rotating image of the enemy drone hovered above the console, slowly breaking apart as his AI analyzed it. The logo was faint, but clear. Nexer Corp., a known black market tech company. Dangerous, ruthless, and rich with stolen secrets. They didn't follow laws. They didn't follow morals. And now they were after Lyra. Blaze's jaw tightened. He had enemies before rivals. Jealous CEOs, greedy investors. But this was different. This wasn't about power anymore. This was personal. Lyra sat in the living room of the orbital suite, watching Earth rotate gently outside the giant window. Her heart felt heavy. She had spent most of her life hiding. Now the secret she carried was putting everyone in danger. Blaze walked in, holding a security tablet. "I've reinforced the outer layers of the suite. Kara will alert us if even a single drone comes close. You'll be safe here." Lyra looked up. "But for how long? You saw what they did. What if they try again?" "They will," Blaze said honestly, "but I'll be ready." He sat beside her. "Lyra, I've been thinking. We need to move before they do." "What do you mean?" "We can't wait for them to strike again. We have to take control of the situation." Lyra nodded slowly. "But how?" Blaze opened a map on the tablet. "There's an old outpost on Europa Station 6. It's abandoned now, but it used to be a data extraction lab. We'll go there. I'll bring my best team. We'll find out exactly what's stored in your biochip." Lyra's eyes widened. "You want to unlock it?" "Yes," Blaze said. "Once we know what's inside you, we'll be able to control who gets access. We'll make sure it's used for good." She hesitated. "And if it's dangerous?" "Then we destroy it." The next morning, Blaze and Lyra boarded his private starcruiser, the Vornhawk, built for stealth and speed. Alongside them was a small group of elite bodyguards and cybersecurity experts, handpicked by Blaze himself. As the ship rose from the orbital tower and slid into space, Lyra sat quietly beside him. She had never traveled this far before. Her fingers played with the bracelet she wore, a small metal band with the symbol of her old colony. Blaze noticed and asked, "Was that from Kepler 17? "Yes," she said. "My mother gave it to me just before the attack." He looked at her with quiet respect. "You've survived so much." "I didn't survive alone," she replied, giving him a soft glance. Europa Station 6 was hidden in the icy rings of Jupiter, forgotten by most. It was dark, cold, and full of shadows, but the power system still worked. As the Vornhawk docked, Blaze gave orders to sweep the area first. Kara's voice came over the ship's comm. No life forms detected. No signs of motion. all systems. In low power mode, the team entered the lab. Dust floated in the air. Broken glass crunched under boots. Old computers blinked softly, their lights still fighting to stay alive. "This place gives me chills," Lyra whispered. "We won't be long," Blaze said. "Just enough to run a full scan of your implant." They reached the central chamber. Blaze activated the main terminal. His team began scanning Lyra's body using a non-invasive light grid. Then the screen lit up. Lines of glowing data appeared, codes, diagrams, alien language, formulas. "Unbelievable," one of the experts said. "This is lost research from Kepler-17, medicine, energy systems, alien material data." Blaze leaned forward. "Is it safe?" "It's advanced. Nothing harmful that I can see, but it's priceless. Nexer would pay anything to get this." Suddenly, the lights flickered. The station trembled. An alert flashed on the screen. "Breach in progress, bay doors overridden." "They found us," Blaze growled. "Shields up," yelled one guard. "They're docking a ship." Outside the station, a black Nexer ship had latched onto the bay doors. Armed men in black suits and masks poured into the corridors. Blaze grabbed Lyra's arm. "Stay behind me." He pulled out his plasma blaster and activated his wrist shield. Gunfire echoed through the metal halls. Blaze's team pushed back, fighting hard to hold their ground. Drones buzzed through the air, dodging laser blasts. Lyra ducked behind a console, heart racing. She had never seen real combat before. She could only watch as brilliant Blaze moved with speed and precision, protecting everyone like a trained soldier. One Nexer agent reached her position. Lyra screamed as the man aimed at her, but before he could fire, Blaze dove in, knocked the weapon away, and slammed the attacker against the wall. "You all right?" he asked, breathing hard. She nodded, shaking. "We need to move. They won't stop." Back at the main terminal, Blaze activated a data extraction core. "We're pulling the info now. Once it's copied, we destroy the implant and wipe the files." "Understood," said the tech. But the enemy was getting closer. As the last files were pulled, Blaze handed Lyra a small metal drive. "This is everything. You carry it now." "But why me?" she asked. "Because you're the reason we're doing this. You deserve to choose what happens next." She clutched the drive close. "Go to the Vornhawk," Blaze said. "I'll cover the rear, but go." Minutes later, the station's defense turrets activated. Blaze's team retreated toward the ship, firing back at the remaining intruders. Kara had activated the blast doors behind them to slow the enemy down. Once inside the ship, Blaze slammed the door shut and shouted, "Launch now!" The Vornhawk broke away from the damaged station, disappearing into the black of space. Inside the ship, Lyra stared at Blaze. "You risked everything for this," she said. "No," Blaze replied, turning to her. "I risked everything for you." Lyra blinked, unsure how to respond. "What now?" "We go back to Earth. We bring this to the Peace Authority. No more running." She reached out and gently took his hand. "I'm not running anymore," she said. "Not while you're with me." The Vornhawk moved smoothly through the dark silence of space. Stars sparkled outside the wide windows, but inside the ship, everything was still. Lyra stood near the observation deck, watching Earth slowly come into view. Her hands were tight around the small metal drive that held the secrets of Kepler-17, her past, her future, and possibly the future of many others. Behind her, Blaze watched in silence. He had protected her through it all, fought for her, bled for her, and something inside her had changed. She had entered his life as a stranger, a tool for his business deal. A fake FIANCE acute E. But now, she didn't want to pretend anymore. Blaze walked over and stood beside her. "We'll land in 5 hours, she nodded. "And then? We'll meet the Peace Authority. Hand over the data." Make sure it's used the right way." Lyra looked at him. "Do you trust them?" "No," Blaze answered honestly. "But I trust myself. I'll be there to make sure you're not treated like a science project." She smiled gently. "You always sound so sure." He looked into her eyes. "I've never been less sure of anything in my life. Except one thing." "What's that?" "That I don't want this marriage to be fake anymore." Lyra's breath caught. Blaze took her hand carefully. "I meant what I said. I'm not pretending anymore. I care about you. Not just as a contract. Not because of what you carry. But because of who you are." She looked at their hands. Then at him. "I feel the same," she whispered after landing. They were taken straight to the Peace Authority headquarters on Earth, located deep under the surface of New Geneva, surrounded by high security and thick walls of steel and glass. The peace officers were calm and polite. They promised protection. They promised that Lyra's data would only be used for peaceful purposes, medical research, clean energy, alien language decoding. Blaze gave them the drive. Lyra gave them her story. And in the end, she was offered something she never thought she would receive: citizenship, protection, and a leadership role in the new Kepler Restoration Project. "We want you to be the face of the future," said Officer Runa. "You are the bridge between old knowledge and new hope." Lyra sat in silence for a while before finally saying, "I'll do it, but only if Blaze is beside me." Blaze smiled. "Always," he said. Weeks passed. Lyra and Blaze returned to his tower in Earth orbit. But everything felt different now. There were no more secrets, no more lies, no more pretending. Each day, they worked side by side building a new branch of Vorntech called the Lyra Initiative. It focused on bringing medical technology to forgotten colonies and orphans like the ones on Luna-9. Lyra was no longer a background character. She was a leader, a dreamer, and Blaze proudly stood behind her, letting her voice shape the future. One night, after a long day of meetings, they returned to the suite. Blaze poured tea while Lyra removed her shoes and flopped onto the couch with a tired laugh. "I used to fix broken fans and scanners," she said. "Now I'm giving orders to scientists and leaders." He handed her the tea and sat beside her. "You're doing great." "I wouldn't have survived without you," she said softly. "I wouldn't have changed without you," he replied. They looked at each other. No cameras, no contracts, no reporters, only them. Lyra stood up and walked to the balcony. The stars above were as beautiful as ever. Blaze followed her and took her hand. "There's something I want to ask," he said. She turned. "What is it?" He looked nervous for the first time in years. "When we first got married, it was just for show. But I want to make it real, not for business, not for image, just for us." Lyra's eyes widened. "I don't have a ring," he said. "But I have this." He pulled out her old bracelet, the one from Kepler 17, but now it had been restored, polished, and fixed. On the inside, he had engraved 2 words, "Start again." Lyra felt tears fill her eyes. She took the bracelet with shaking fingers and whispered, "Yes." Blaze smiled. "Really?" She nodded. "Yes, I want to start again with you." Their second wedding was quiet. No reporters, no guests, just them, Kara as witness, and a small ceremony in the garden dome of the Vorntech Tower. Lyra wore a dress made of silver cloth and stardust threads. Blaze wore simple white. They spoke their own vows. This time, every word was real. "I promise to protect your dreams," Blaze said. "Not just with shields and weapons, but with trust and respect." "I promise to believe in you," Lyra replied. "Even when the world doubts, even when you doubt yourself." They sealed their vow with a kiss, gentle, warm, and full of meaning. The fake marriage was over. This one was true. A few days later, Lyra returned to Luna 9 not as a visitor, but as a hero. The children at the orphan center ran to her, laughing and cheering. She brought gifts, new scanners, fresh medicine, and smiling doctors who had joined her initiative. Blaze stood behind her. Proud and quiet. "You're the real miracle here," he whispered. Lyra turned to him. "No, we both are." Together, they planted a tree outside the new clinic. A sign read, "Hope grows here, in memory of Kepler 17, in honor of new beginnings." The crowd clapped. And in that moment, Lyra felt something she had never truly felt before. Peace. She wasn't hiding anymore. She wasn't pretending anymore. She was loved. She was home. Months had passed since Blaze Vorn and Lyra Mays had made their marriage real. The deal that started it all was long completed. The merger with the Draven Consortium had created new trade opportunities, but to Blaze and Lyra, the business world had become a smaller part of their lives. Now, their days were filled with something far more meaningful. The Lyra initiative was thriving. Medical clinics were opening on forgotten colonies. Orphaned children received care and education. New scientists and engineers joined their cause. And through it all, Blaze and Lyra stood together, not as CEO and employee, not as a fake couple, but as partners. One afternoon, they sat in the garden dome of Vorntech Tower, surrounded by blooming plants and soft sunlight filtered through the glass. Lyra smiled as she watched a group of children run and play nearby. Their laughter was a melody she loved hearing. Blaze reached over and took her hand gently. "You know," he said, "I never thought I could feel this happy." Lyra looked at him. "Neither did I, but here we are." He squeezed her hand. "I want more. Not just the work, but us." She nodded. "Me too." That evening, Blaze surprised Lyra with a small dinner on the balcony. The city lights of New Geneva sparkled below them. The stars shone brightly above. Blaze took a deep breath. "Lyra," he began, "when I first asked you to be my fake fiancée, I only saw a solution to a problem. But over time, you became everything I didn't know I was missing." Lyra's eyes softened. "And you became someone I could trust. Someone I wanted by my side." Blaze smiled and pulled out a small box. Inside was a simple ring, a silver band with a small, star-shaped diamond. "I want to marry you again," he said. "This time, not for business, not for deals, but because I love you." Tears filled Lyra's eyes. She laughed softly. "I thought we already did." "This is the real promise," Blaze said. She nodded, and the two embraced under the vast sky. In the weeks that followed, they planned a ceremony, not a contract, not a show, but a true celebration of love. Friends, family, and colleagues gathered in the green fields of Luna 9, near the clinic they had built. The children sang songs. The stars above twinkled with quiet approval, and the air smelled of fresh earth and hope. Lyra wore a dress sewn with threads of moonlight and earth soft flowers. Blaze wore a simple suit, his usual sharp look softened by a warm smile. As they exchanged vows, Lyra whispered, "You saw me not just as a tool or a secret, but as a person. And that changed everything." Blaze replied, "You taught me that love is more than contracts. It's trust. It's patience. It's hope." They sealed their vows with a kiss that felt like the beginning of forever. After the ceremony, Blaze and Lyra walked among the crowd, shaking hands and sharing smiles. One of the children tugged on Lyra's sleeve. "Will you stay?" he asked. She knelt down, smiling warmly. "As long as you need me." Blaze stood beside her, watching the moment with pride. He realized then that the deal, the fake marriage, and even the dangers they faced were all steps that led them here. To this moment of true happiness. Life settled into a beautiful rhythm. Lyra continued to lead the Kepler Restoration Project, bringing hope to many. Blaze balanced his business empire with his new role as a husband and partner. They learned to grow together, supporting each other through challenges and celebrations. The memories of fear and lies faded, replaced by trust and love. One night, as they sat watching Earth's blue glow from their tower, Blaze turned to Lyra. "Thank you," he said quietly. For being brave, for staying, Lyra smiled. Thank you for seeing me, for choosing me. They held hands and watched the stars dot in that silent moment. The galaxy felt small dot because for them, the universe was not just made of stars and planets dot it. Was made of moments like these, moments of love beyond the deal,